Here's an economics lesson for you. You could buy 2 or 3 Ford F-150s or one of these F-150 Raptor Rs. $110,000 is what buys you a 700 horsepower dune hopping crazy truck that will keep up with almost any sports car on the road and then drive off the road better than practically anything. This is the truck we've been waiting to drive for a long time. It competes against the Ram 1500 TRX, and I'm going to tell you what it's really all about. This is what healthy competition looks like. Ram did a V8 pickup truck with over 700 horsepower, so Ford has. Brand new for 2023, the Raptor R continues the Raptor tradition of being overpowered, oversized, and just tons of fun. This is the 3rd generation Raptor, and this one is the most powerful and exclusive one you're going to find. The Raptor R has more hot air and liquids flowing through it than a Patriot's tailgate, and this is why. It requires 66% more air flowing through it than the GT500. That's because, look at this thing. It has to ingest everything and filter out all the dust. Massive air duct up here, 5.2 liter supercharged V8. It looks kind of small inside here, but that's because the hood is so big. That's the thing about the F-150. It can go everywhere from a hybrid 6 to a regular V8 to this giant V8. Check out the numbers. They are astronomical. Now look how they look next to the regular Raptor, which is already quite powerful, but it does not come close to this. What Ford also did, they changed the exhaust manifold, they changed the oil cooler. Just about every little part that they could versus the standard Shelby Mustang has been re-engineered. The front end of the Raptor R is quite stealthy. The only giveaways, this hood bulge and the red R on that grille. Everything else you see, like the steel bumpers, the tow hooks, the metal skid plates, everything is very functional, including all the clearance lights because it's over 80 inches wide. If you already know the Raptor 37, and watch that review if you haven't, you'll know this one. The Raptor R does not require major suspension changes. That's because it comes standard with the 37-inch tire package that's optional on the regular Raptor. That gives you over 13 inches of clearance. And check out the approach and departure angles. They're insane by any measure. Now you get 14 inches to travel in the back, 13 in the front, adaptive Fox racing shocks all around that are very, very responsive. The main difference versus a regular Raptor is in the front, where the spring rate has been increased to handle that increased weight from the engine. Underneath is also a larger aluminum drive shaft and a beefed up torque converter because there's a lot of torque going through this thing. The back of the Raptor R. It's like a regular F-150 with 2 giant exhaust tips. If you notice something that's not here, the graphics. It's got a delete package so you don't see the word Raptor written like a 4-year-old on the side of the flanks. You know what this is. Again, it is the bright red R, cleverly hidden on that back logo. So if people behind you can't see that it's a Raptor, they will hear it soon enough. The moonroof is optional, but these seats are standard. You get that nice suede leather outboard heated seats. Tons of room because this is the Super Crew. It's the only way you can get the Raptor R. The Raptor R brings orange accents everywhere. The 12 o'clock hash mark on the steering wheel, the stitching on the dash, even on these American flag etchings on the side pillars. There's also metal shift paddles and carbon fiber trim. This is conventional F-150, so you get the top of the line trim, massaging seats that are not available right now because of the pandemic shortages. Eventually that'll be fixed, but you also get powered gear selector and this work tray, which I absolutely love. Great for eating lunch, if nothing else. Put this back up here, got the carbon fiber. The only thing I don't really like, the leather. Doesn't really feel like leather. All these panels here, not quite up to the quality of what you'll find in a Ram TRX, especially at this price. So that's really the one knock I have against it. But then I do, yeah, that is what makes up for it. Sync 4 comes standard on this 12-inch touchscreen. It's pretty high res, except for these cameras. Check out the backup camera here and the bed cam. That's a pretty bad and garbled display. If you go into a GM truck, they are so high res, so Ford could improve that. But everything else is actually pretty good. You get this right third over here, which I can scroll through multiple functions. Looking at the fuel economy, which is laughable. Zone lighting, you can see that bed camera here. All this different stuff, it makes it really easy to use. I can adjust features. There's a thing called trail turn assist, which will help you by braking the inner wheel when you're in 4-wheel high or 4-wheel low. You're not gonna find semi-automated control like Ford's Blue Cruise, but you do get basically everything else, including reverse brake assist. Very helpful because it's difficult to see what you're backing into when you're in a Raptor R. And otherwise, you also get wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and an 18-speaker Bang & Olufsen stereo with speakers in the headrests. The Raptor R is not a work truck, it's a play truck. So you get the steering weighting, the suspension, and your exhaust all right here on your fingertips. You don't have to go wading through the touchscreen. Everything is right in front of you, including all the driving modes. That's the great thing about having a fully digital display. Not only do you get great animations, but you can see everything that it's doing. For example, in off-road mode, it's switching to 4 high and putting the rear diff locker on. That's really helpful. You can also customize some of the gauges on top. That's great, so you can really concentrate on those angles. And if you really want to see all the data without plugging in an OBD2 port, this is how you do it. Remember when I said that the previous Raptor was too slow? Well, no longer. Love hearing that supercharger pulley. Ford modified the pulley, of course. It changed the oil cooler, the oil pan, the exhaust manifold. Compared to that standard engine, if you want to call it standard, of the Shelby GT500, they had to make extra changes because this truck gulps a whole lot more air than that Mustang needs. And it's down on power some, a little bit. The Shelby makes 760 horsepower, this is 700 even, but this one has more torque. Want to hear something funny? The average fuel economy is 9.2 miles per gallon. That's on a good day. I think that's what I love most about the Ford F-150. You can get it in so many different configurations. Excuse me if I'm yelling, I can barely hear myself over this V8. But the point being is that you can go all the way to this Raptor R, a regular Raptor with the twin turbo 6. You can get regular V8s. You can get hybrids. A basic work truck. It's like every single possible configuration known to mankind is in the F-150. But this one's not going to stick around for too long. Like the Ram TRX, this is a specialty model, and you will pay. This is over $110,000 as you see it here. And I don't even want to guess what the dealer markups are going to be on a truck like this. Astronomical. Ford sells the Raptor R as if you live in a desert. It's meant for sand dune hopping, jumps. But what you're really doing 95% of the time is trying to stay in the lane of a paved road, which is all but impossible. You've got multiple steering weighting options on here, including the suspension and the exhaust. They're all accessible by buttons right here on my right thumb, so it's very, very easy to adjust. And that steering does help because in sport mode, it tightens the feel a little bit, so it's not as sloppy. It's still very sloppy, but you just don't have the illusion of it being quite as loose. But it still is. And every little crosswind, any little thing in the road is really knocking the Raptor side to side. If you pass somebody in this truck, well, you might as well have 4 hands on the wheel. That's how badly you need to control this thing. And might I suggest a pro tip? Always keep this thing in 4 auto, because if you don't, I don't want to tell you what happens if you don't. Just keep it in 4 auto. A nice feature about the Raptor R, there's a quiet mode. You can activate it right here on the screen, and it will, based on your time, like an alarm clock, will make sure it doesn't completely awake your neighbors. And I can also adjust the exhaust sound right here on the steering wheel, including selecting a off-road use only mode called Baja, which just makes it a little wilder. Never mind, it's a lot wilder. The Raptor R comes standard with the 37-inch tire package that's optional on the regular Raptor. So that means that all of the specs are the same. 13.1 inches of ground clearance, all the insane approach and departure angles, all of that good stuff. But things like the front spring rate, that's been increased. This is a much heavier engine. And all of the various driving modes here have also been recalibrated. It's a lot different when you have a giant V8 versus a pretty powerful Turbo 6. Of course, you've got front and rear locking differentials. There's even a system that will brake the inner wheels and drag them essentially on the ground. And what that does is it helps you navigate a little easier around turns on the trail. It's called Trail Turn Assist. Kind of neat. If you can picture yourself like dragging a boot behind as you're walking, you can pivot yourself a lot easier. That's the system here. Of course, the easiest thing to do in a Raptor is just to put your right foot down. That always helps. One piece of advice I could give you if you ever drive a Raptor R is just to hang on. And then pray that you can stop, and you will, but allow yourself enough time, right? It's like preparing for an emergency exit. Know all your exits, know all the doors. You kind of have to do that with the Raptor R, because it might fool you into thinking that it's some sort of agile sports car because it's got this loud V8 and all the race trimmings inside, like these metal paddle shifters that feel like you're inside a Ferrari with the red hash mark up on the top, but you're not. So never, ever, ever forget the fact that you can't fit in a parking garage, and that if you reverse the wrong way, you'll have a tire in someone's windshield. The 2023 Ford F-150 starts at $33,695. You could buy 3 of those for the price of this 2023 Raptor R. Mine was $112,035 with destination. The regular Raptor starts at over $76K, and adding the R, well, that's over 30 grand more. And it's not just the V8 engine. It's the exclusivity, it's all the extra suspension tuning, everything I was already mentioning. And let's remember, there's only one other competitor, the Ram 1500 TRX. This is a great time for gasoline performance vehicles. 700 horsepower from a Shelby V8 in a lifted pickup truck. It costs over 100 grand, and Ford cannot build enough to satisfy you all. And I can't see why. It's totally amazing. Take my word for it. Drive one if you can, because the performance is just astounding. It shouldn't be sold really to anybody without a racing license. And the fact that it is, well, this is America, and I love America, and I love trucks like this. So go to CarGurus.com, subscribe, price out your next car, because we'll also give you a pretty good deal if you trade your car in, and try to get one of these, because if I don't, you should. We'll see you next time.